Hello viewers, there's a topic on water. Now, when it comes to gardens, everyday living, that sort of thing, water is life. You can't argue that point. Here at our place, yes, we're on grid water, and the stuff they put in it sometimes is absolutely putrid. It's absolutely bloody shocking. It stinks. And at times when we put grid water on our vegetables, we found that the chemicals in it tend to burn the foliage on it, and sometimes it takes a long time for we've actually had vegetables drop dead from all the crap they put in it. True story. So as part of our prepping, when the house was built 25 years ago, somewhere thereabouts, we looked at additional water supply apart from grid water if the grid water fails, and we have had it fail a few times. Bushfires last year, one of the municipal dams, the power feed, was burnt to the ground on that particular dam, and we're on the water pipeline, grid pipeline to Toowoomba. So alerts were put out for Toowoomba and anybody on that pipeline to reduce water consumption until they got the pump station up and going again. I think it was probably a week or 2 weeks or something like that, I don't know. But this tank behind me, this is the first one we installed. Now it's about 2,500 gallons of water. Not a lot of water. We couldn't put a 5,000 gallon tank in because it's much higher than the guttering on the roof, and water doesn't flow uphill. At least the last time I looked it didn't. Another conspiracy theory maybe. Anyway, so this one here was the first one we installed. When we installed it, we were in drought then, and it took about 4 months just to fill that tank off our roof. What little rain we got, and of course when you get heavy dew you can sort of get a little bit of a dribble into the tank too. Since then we've installed another 2 of these tanks, so all up we've got about 7,500 gallons of water in reserve. Not a lot of water. When we were living on our off-grid property, we had a bore. To the Americans and other people overseas, that's a well. And we lived at a very primitive lifestyle out there, and one of the biggest things we learnt on that particular off-grid property, was about 8 acres, was water conservation. Very frugal with water. Now we had people go out there camping with us and all that sort of stuff, and they were townies and they sort of, I just lost it one day. One guy was at the holding tank. We had to pump the water up the hill from the bore into a 1,000 gallon holding tank, and he turned it on, got distracted, walked off and left the water running out onto the ground. So I just went ballistic on his butt. Water conservation. So the issue we've got at the moment is as I've said before in a previous video, is water. Now we keep these tanks in reserve. They're not plumbed into the house. They are required to be now under current building codes, but at the time they weren't when this house was built. Plumbed into the loo, the laundry, that sort of thing. What we've done here is we've kept these tanks in reserve. We do use one tank for domestic use inside, drinking, cooking, that sort of thing, rather than use the junk that's coming out of the tap off the grid supply. And on occasions, some of the homesteaders around here that are on just rainwater tanks, they've come up and filled up jerry cans of water until the next water tanker load of water that they bought, very expensive, can come and fill up their tanks. Now we don't use this water for irrigation, because the simple maths of it is, the more water you use out of these tanks, the more rain you need to fill them, and we're just not getting it. It's a basic equation. We're just not getting the rain to fill these tanks if we drain them down too low. What we're using for domestic use, inside the house, for drinking, cooking, that sort of stuff, not washing, not bathing, not in the bathroom, not the loo, we're getting enough runoff on the roof from heavy dew and the occasional showers that we're getting to keep The one tank we're using full, the other two are in reserve. So being frugal with water is just one of those things. When you look at you're running livestock, growing your own vegetables, your self-sufficiency in vegetables, is you can only look at the resources you've got and adjust what you can and can't do to the given water resources you've got. Now, in past years we've had bonds of vegetable gardens producing a lot, but then we had good seasons of rain. This year we planted, we had a very mild spring. We had problems with soil temps. It took a long time for the sprout for some of it, and yes, we did get some rain. But what we found was that the heat wave we've experienced over the last month, maybe 2 months, with very little rain except from very destructive storms, is that we just haven't got the water resources to have gardens that produce very high produce. The reason being is that we're on grid water here, and there are very, very severe water restrictions. You can only water so much per day. The odd day, it goes on your house number. For so long, washing cars, and I tell you, when we were living in one of the poshiest suburbs, we were just renting a house there as this house was being built. There was a guy there, and we were in drought then. It's a true story. And this dude, manicured lawn, perfect, it's green. And he was out there hosing off his driveway, despite water restrictions, running sprinklers on his lawn. And I think it was me and my wife went up and challenged him about it, because we're on severe water restrictions. He says, I'm paying for it, I can do what I like. That's the mentality of a lot of people. So good luck with that when you run out of water. And water at the moment is it's more precious than gold. It really is. So that's my story. Water. We have to look at the water resources we've got, how much we can do with it, keeping water in reserve. This is also can be used. I've got the 3 tanks of water here. It can be used for firefighting. We've already notified the local RFS if they need water for their tankers, they can come in and take the water. So that's another thing. Alright viewers, I've finished rambling on about this, but water, yeah. You can have the richest soil, mulch it and everything, but you've got to have water. And you've got to work within the water limitations you have. Have a good day. Be safe, be well. See ya.